welcome everyone. I know we have people pouring into the Zoom room as we speak. We are so thrilled to have you. My name is Erin Sawyer. I am Chief of People Development at JA Worldwide, and we have an incredibly packed session for you. This is the third time actually that we have done stakeholder sessions for board members at our Global Leadership Conference, otherwise known as GLC. And every single time it is an incredible time to dive in deep, build community, really learn and kind of engage board members from across the globe. We are truly honored to have you. As we kick off and get going, next slide, please, Sarah. We will be moving into a very cool way to kind of talk through the board session. You're going to hear from a lot of different speakers. We're going to go through and have an interactive session. So please mute yourselves in the interim and don't be offended if we mute you. It's just to keep the conversation flowing. There'll be time at the end and throughout for questions. So please keep queuing those in the chat. We will take those as we go. And then at the end, we will have an incredible group discussion where we can really hear from some of you and continue to grow our board community. So without further ado, I'm going to take over the sharing here, and I am going to introduce my fabulous, I was going to say co-host, but Zabine is much more than that. She's a global board member on our global board of governors. She is also, quite frankly, just one of the true women leaders that I look up to on every regard. Zabine, give me a moment to pull up this PowerPoint and we'll get started.
Super.
Zabine,
Thank you.
Absolutely. For some reason, give me 1 second, you guys. Can you guys see that okay?
All good to go, Erin.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. So handing it over to Zabine, again, she is a groundbreaking leader. She's also a JA Worldwide Board of Governors. She is in her not so purposeful third act, a former Chief Human Relations Officer at the Royal Bank of Canada, a top 10 global bank leader. I mean, the list could go on and on with Zabine, but truly it is a gift to welcome you to the stage. So Zabine, the floor is yours.
Super. Thank you so much, Erin. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hola, jambo, bonjour, e caro. Thank you so much for joining us at today's JA board member event. And your presence, I can see the numbers coming in, and it truly is a testament to your commitment to JA. And we thank you for that. As we can't do live introductions given our time constraints, I'm requesting that you jump into the chat so we can at least get to know you a little bit, and just drop into the chat where you're calling in from, what country you're calling in from, and one reason why you chose, because you've all made the choice to join JA, and I look forward to reading what you have to say. I am absolutely delighted to moderate today's session. A little bit about myself. As Erin mentioned, my name is Zabine Hirji, and I'm joining you from Toronto, Canada, where spring is just about to spring. I grew up in Tanzania. I am of Indian heritage. So already, I think you can see why JA is so meaningful to me. So I'm in what I've coined my purposeful third act. And I'll tell you a little bit about that at Ashish's insistence to share that. So following a very rewarding, full-time, full-on career at RBC, the Royal Bank of Canada, which is Canada's largest global bank, I found myself asking, what next? And after deep and sometimes quite uncomfortable reflection about who I had been and who I wanted to be, one thing became crystal clear to me. I wanted to make my third act very purposeful. So I set out to dig deep, unearth, and articulate my purpose, and landed on this: to unlock human potential and build inclusive prosperity. Now, following that, what I set out to do, and that's where JA came into play, was to create a portfolio of roles and activities to help me bring my purpose to life. I have a mix, a portfolio of activities I do. I'm an executive advisor to Deloitte in the human capital space, given my career history. I'm an advisor to an HR scale-up called Naukri, which is a recruiting process that mitigates bias in recruitment. And I spend over half my time doing pro bono work as an advisor to leaders in governments, in the public service, universities, and NGOs. And so I'm sure you can see how JA's mission, which really essentially is about unlocking the potential of youth and really building prosperity that's inclusive, it is a perfect alignment to my purpose. And I focus really on looking at impact, learning, and joy. And being a part of JA brings all three of those to me, way more than I actually anticipated when I joined. And it truly is such a privilege to serve on the board and with the organization. So let me just jump into the chat here and catch a few hellos. Hello from Milan. Hi, Jonas. Nice to see you. Greetings from Dubai, a place I have to get to one of these years. Big hug from Sicily and Brussels. Hi, Fod. Nice to see you on there. Not that I'm not happy to see others, but these are people I know personally. And please also jump in with what you love about JA. Why did you join? Why did you choose to give your time, your energy, your talent to this organization? Philippines. So I should have said good evening as well. Anyway, wonderful to see people. We're almost up to 100 people. So now let me just give you a quick flyby of what to expect at the session today. As we all know, as board members, we play a really important role in building resilience and sustainable growth at JA. So we have three goals today. Number one, to share information that helps all of us effectively align local to global within JA's fixed, flexible, and freestyle framework, which I love and have stolen shamelessly for work that I do with other NGOs. Our CEO, Ashish, will take us through the updated global strategy, which was just reviewed with the JA Worldwide Executive Committee last week. And one thing I'd like to add to that is I've really been struck by how much involvement of members across the JA network, how much time and care and attention is taken to hear as many voices as possible and to get to a strategy where every country, every region can really see themselves. And that is not an easy task. And my hat's off to the management team and the board for doing that. Our second objective is to share best practices in governance. And we are delighted to have Camille Blair, who chairs the Governance and People Development Committee of JA Africa, with us, who will be telling us about the governance work that she's been leading. And PS, personal plug here, I absolutely loved spending time with Camille at our JA Worldwide meetings. I think we're kindred spirits in some way. And number three, our goal is to build community and develop new connections across the globe. We've built in a Q&A session, but I do encourage you to use the chat to share your views, your ideas, your learnings, and we will have a way to capture that and share with you. So without further ado, it is now my pleasure to turn it over to our remarkable CEO and best-selling author, I would add, who needs no introduction. Please join me in a big welcome to Ashish Advani, our CEO, JA Worldwide. Over to you, Ashish.
Thank you, Zabine, and thank you so much for um, um, I guess agreeing with me that starting with your why would help everyone else get engaged in the chat. It's very difficult, Zabine, to build community in a 1 hour Zoom call. And I'm so grateful to you and soon to Camille as well for being the great role models that you are to, in this world with so much geopolitical change and strife, for us to project our most positive selves. So thank you for leaning into getting everyone going in the chat. We're going to try to use the chat in a way that helps people feel truly engaged in today's call, because obviously it's not going to be possible for us to take questions from everyone. But what I've done is I just have 10 slides. So this is not a huge slide presentation. And hopefully I'm going to be able to leave enough time that we can answer some questions in the chat and get some engagement going in the chat as well. And then turn it over to Camille, because I really wanted Camille to showcase the great work that's being done in Africa, which is, I think, so consistent with where our strategy is going, not just from where we've been, but where our strategy is going. Next slide, please. I'm not sure if most of you have seen this slide, but I've been sharing it increasingly around the world, because what I see is the boards around the world, they often are aware of some of the great recognition that we have as an organization, but they may not know what's happening under the iceberg. So I want to really spend a little bit of time in today's call taking you on a journey. The last slide I share will be the slide with the preview of the strategic plan for the next 3 years of the organization, 2026 to 2028. Until then, I'm going to take you on a journey for how we got there and be able to take your questions and touch on some of the kind of issues of the moment. So under the iceberg, we of course know about the Nobel Peace Prize nominations. We know about the top 10 global NGO. And we know about all the other forms of recognition that all of the J entities around the world get. But what we may sometimes forget is all the hard work that goes on sort of under the surface. And I want to start by thanking all of you, obviously, for making time for this call, but really being part of what makes this organization so unique and special. How many organizations are in over 100 countries where everyone finds a way to work towards a common mission? It's very rare. You know, we have over 6,000 board members, over 3,500 staff, and over 400,000 volunteers that really power the JA network. And the recognition that we collectively get is really because of that hard work. So let me give you a few examples of some of the things which I believe have led us to kind of raise the impact and ability for our organization to deliver on the promises that we make to our stakeholders. One is we have an aspiration to reach 100 million young people per year by the year 2050. To get there, we have to collectively grow at 10% per annum. Collectively. That doesn't mean in your particular community or your particular geography you have to have that growth. Collectively. So as we expand to new geographies, of course, it creates growth. If we go to places where there is really where youth don't have access to JA, or a very small number of youth have access to JA, that's where there's more likely to be growth. And then if you're in a mature market, a place where JA has existed for many decades, your focus may not be growth. Your focus may be on something which is deeper, something which is about either risk management or measuring impact more successfully, or really pivoting the organization to focus on outcomes, not just outputs. So we really respect where you are in your growth journey. And I think that's what makes this organization so special, is we don't have a strategy that is so top down that dictates what needs to happen. We really are focused on making sure that our programs, our time, our learning experiences, our efforts are spent on what the communities need most. So I wanted to start with that. And they always say you should start with a story as opposed to data. So I'm going to share a lot of data. And if I encourage you to expand your screen so you can see the data. If you're looking at my face, don't look at my face, look at the screen and expand your screen and expand the slide, because I'm going to be starting with some data slides in a second. But before I do, I can see many of the people who've joined, I've had a chance to present to you quite a few times. So you already know my story of how I went through JA and how it impacted me as I moved from India to kind of think of myself differently. You've heard that story. I think some of you have also heard the story of how GA impacted my kids. I have identical twins, and it really helped one of my twins think differently about his own capabilities. So I'm not going to tell those stories again. Instead, I'm going to ask a board member who I met in Lithuania to share, if she could, in a minute or less, the fact that she was able to kind of refer us. She works at Moody's. I'm looking for Oksay to maybe come off mute, Oksa, if you could. And
I'm
share.
here. I'm here,
Oh, wonderful.
Ashish.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you so much for the opportunity and so nice to meet you all. I know that we are all doing wonderful things together with Junior Achievement, and I'm so happy to be part of this community. I joined Moody's as well as JA only a year and a half ago, and I learned that we had a long history in Lithuania, in Vilnius, which is at the heart of Europe. We learned that we have a very good collaboration with the local community. But we felt that we could do more. So after meeting Ashish as well as some other members of the team, celebrating our 30th birthday, right, in November, we took it forward, and considering Moody's community impact strategy and direction that we have, I took the liberty of introducing Ashish and his team to our community group. And guess what? The motion has started, and today I'm so proud of my colleagues in Singapore and Brussels taking it forward in terms of integration, mentorship, and some other activities that are happening. I know UK is lining up to be next one in the journey. And our ambition is not at 100 million, Ashish, but at least if we can establish a connection with GA, at least in 50% of where Moody's is, and to keep growing, that would be a great journey for us in the next couple of years. So I hope that we will be able to collaborate in countries that you are based. And if you need our help, please reach out to me. And meanwhile, I just keep fingers crossed for our joint effort to result in a wonderful outcome. Thank you so much, Ashish, for being open to such opportunity.
Thank you so much, Oksana. And the reason I wanted you to share that wonderful story is you are the living embodiment of the culture of abundance that we have. For you to reach out to your colleagues, deepen our partnership, and to really think of our ability to work together, not by protecting your own interests, but making sure that everyone wins, is exactly, I think, what we'd like all our board members to do. So thank you so much for your support. And thank you to Moody's.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next slide, please. So it's really important that we see ourselves in the strategy. No matter where we are in the organization, we want everyone in this great network to see themselves. So this strategy slide, most of you hopefully have already seen. I've been sharing it over and over again for the last few years. It comes to an end in 2025 in June, and we'll have a new strategy, which I'll share with you at the end of today's talk. But this slide you're familiar with, and maybe if I could ask everyone in the chat to do something for me. If you could indicate, for example, I see Jonas here, I see Vivian here, I see Karen, the board chair of JA Worldwide, Karen Reddington, hi. If you could put in the chat what your affiliation is with JA, whether it's global, regional, national, local, wherever you are, just put global, regional, national, or local, and if you could tell me where in this slide you see yourself. So let me explain the slide and then you can jump in. This slide shows how we get from 15 million student learning experiences per year, where we started in 2023, to 20 million by 2025 on our journey to get to 100 million by 2050. Really simple math. We grow 10% per year, and we get from 15 million to 20 million. The great news is we're about a year ahead of schedule. And the reason is because of these four big priorities: accelerating digital, empowering the underserved, cultivating partnerships, and strengthening 1JA. Those are the ways in which we're able to grow. And we have a series of enablers which allow that to happen. For example, brand and marketing is one enabler. So we initiated a strategy to bring all of the different JA entities together under a refreshed brand, thanks to the great work of my colleagues in the marketing team, Terry and others, and of course the great work of Salvatore Negro and Mina in Europe to work so hard to bring people along on this journey and see the benefits of being part of one global brand. So that's an example of how Strengthen 1JA and brand marketing communications came together to enable the strategy to happen. So I'd love to see in the chat, just to get you all engaged, to see yourself in this slide, kind of what part of the slide you feel most resonates with you. What really motivates you? Perhaps you're somebody interested in partnerships. Perhaps you're really focused on underserved youth. Perhaps you care so much about digital and AI. Of course, I know many of you care about multiple priorities, but I wanted to see kind of where you fit and where you see yourself on the slide. I do this in all my presentations, particularly with JA staff, so they can see their own role. Perhaps I know for a few of you, you're really experts in governance. Maybe you see yourself in governance and people development, for example. All right, while we're doing that, next slide. So how are we doing on this plan? As I said, we're about a year ahead of schedule. So instead of growing at 10% per annum, we've been growing collectively at about 15 or 16% per year. I'm going to explain how that's broken out in a second so we all have full transparency, but this gives you a sense of where the growth is coming on a regional level. So on a regional level, as you know, unsurprisingly, some of the regions which are newer and have more room for growth, like Africa, where the world's youth, there will be more youth in Africa than in any other region of the world in the next 20 years. So huge opportunity for JA, and of course, huge need for us to bring JA's programs, particularly around leadership and youth development, to African youth. So you can see the growth in Africa has been the most substantial on a percentage basis. Of course, Europe is still our largest region, unsurprisingly, and both Asia and the US are about between 4 and 5 million student learning experiences collectively. Next slide. Okay, so this gives you a sense, oh my goodness, the slide seems to have translated into Arabic. How interesting. I don't know how that happened. That wasn't true a few minutes ago. This gives you a sense of the total growth on a year-by-year basis. So as I said, we're trying to get to 20 million by 2025. We're just about 19.9 million in 2024. So we're very optimistic that we're going to end this year significantly ahead of our 20 million goal. So we have to now think about what that means going forward. Now, the split here, which I wanted you to see, is to really highlight how we've leaned into the segmentation of our learning around Inspire, Prepare, and Succeed. And if you could see the percentages, what you'd see is the growth is more substantial in Succeed and Inspire than in Prepare. So they've all grown, but Succeed, which is our deepest experiences, and Inspire, which is our introductory experiences, have grown faster than in Prepare. But Prepare is still the largest number of learning experiences. So of our 19 million, over 10 million, over half, are Prepare experiences, which are ones where we actually measure the pre and post of the impact journey. While Inspire, introductory, Prepare have a beginning, middle, and end, and Succeed are our mastery learning experiences. So we're being very transparent with our stakeholders and allowing every board to set their own goals for where they want to put their emphasis. What JA Worldwide is aspiring for is to make sure that our growth is really tied to outcomes, not just outputs. And I'm going to walk you through a journey of how we got there. Next slide, please. Okay, this is now not looking at student learning experiences, but revenue. And you can see we're very lucky as an organization, I think, and I really want to thank my colleagues around the world for making this happen, is we've been able to raise and deploy well over $1 billion in philanthropy and in corporate partnerships and in individual fundraising and in government and public sector support for reaching youth. So in this past year, 2024, our collective total revenue was over $500 million, which is by far our largest and best year in our history. And you can see there's been steady growth since the pandemic of about 300 to 350 million, all the way to over 500 million. And the revenue growth has been true in all 6 regions. So one of the best things I think about our growth story and about our strategy story is the strategy has been working in attracting more resources to our organization. And that's true in all 6 regions of JA. Now, of course, if you work as part of a local entity or a national entity, you may have found you had a good year or a bad year, depending on, of course, the economic circumstances of where you are. Next slide, please. And I want you to know that no matter where you are very similar to other parts of JA. Let me explain why. When you divide out that big number, that $500 million number, into the number of legal entities that we have, which is 326, what you find is we all are a network of teams of about 11 people on average in each entity. So we're really a network of small teams. So that 500 million divided by 326 legal entities means it's about $1.5 million per entity. So that just gives you a sense that we are really a very large organization, but collectively a set of small organizations. So we have to remember this from a governance standpoint, because from a governance standpoint, we've got to make sure that we work together. We will not succeed if we work alone. And that's why the geopolitics of the moment is something that we have to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant as an organization to make sure that we continue to work together, even if there are forces that try to pull us apart. So we're going to have to work extra hard. And when I mean extra hard, I mean more convenings with each other to understand each other's needs, making sure that we focus on our mission of helping youth, not focus on our natural instinct to either protect our goals, but to make sure we're focused very much on helping youth. So for example, even in controversial cases in JA history, such as when the world chose to impose sanctions on Russia, the JA Europe board voted to not expel JA Russia. The JA Europe board voted to make sure we put youth first. It was a controversial vote and it was a very open discussion, but we've consistently in history, regardless of what's happening in the world, put youth first. And as we're tested in geopolitics to respect the sort of national and populist interests around the world, we have to remember what our mission truly is and hold true to our values, to put youth first. And this slide, I think, makes the point perhaps best, which is if we break apart or if we try to focus on our own interests above others, what will be is a set of very small organizations that will certainly not be deserving of the Nobel Peace Prize and certainly not be able to maximize the impact. Okay, next slide. All right, so we have this framework. Thank you, Sabine, for mentioning it. Fixed, flexible, freestyle. Thank you to Jonas Priesing, who's on the call, for introducing us to this framework many years ago. We've taken it, we've adapted it, we've made it our own, just like Jonas asked us to do. So we've got fixed priorities, which are global. We've got regional priorities, and we've got national, local priorities. Let me go through this very quickly. We have a long-term goal of reaching 100 million young people by 2050. That's fixed. We move on 3-year strategy cycles. That's fixed. We have a framework which we apply to everything we do, whether it's impact measurement, whether it's brand, whether it's program design. Fixed, flexible, freestyle gets the best of local empowerment and the best of alignment. We have a segmentation and inspire, prepare, succeed. That's fixed. We don't want to create new categories without checking in with global. We have outputs and outcomes. We're focused not just on the number of students we reach, but on delivering real outcomes. And we're all in a different place in the journey to get there, but we're on that journey. So you'll see when I get to the next slide, which I'll get to in a second, what that means in practice. At the regional level, flexible, we also have 3-year cycles, but we're about 75% aligned with each other. It's okay to be different, but we're 75% aligned on our strategic priorities. And we each get to set our own goals for growth and for impact. We each get to set our own goals for outputs and outcomes. And we each have a different customized culture for cascading our strategy. In Africa, and we're going to be hearing from Camille soon, the strategy is much more top-down. The funding in Africa tends to flow. Over 50% of the budget of all the member nations in Africa comes from the regional operating center. So it's a much more top-down culture. While in Europe, the ratio is somewhat different. So it's a much more sort of bottom-up, collaborative, consensus-building culture, as it is across Europe for many other things as well, not just at JA. So every region is going to have their own customized culture for cascading our strategy. And that's a good thing. And we celebrate that. We don't want to change that. Freestyle at the local level, you get to design your own programs. You get to benefit from the regional and global. We also have a strategy toolkit that we're rolling out with McKinsey. We have a session actually tomorrow, a strategy session, which McKinsey's leading. And at GLC in Rio in November, we'll be rolling out a strategy toolkit to allow all the J entities who want it to be able to align their strategies with J Worldwide and with the regional strategies to ensure there is proper alignment. Next slide. And this is my last one, which is the go forward priorities. And thanks to the senior leadership team, I see many of my colleagues here from the senior leadership team, and I see members of our global board here as well, who've both had a chance to look at this and opine on it. So the quick big changes. Number one, at the very top, we have our aspiration. And we've added something to our aspiration, which is very important. I've kept mentioning outcomes and outputs. We've added explicitly now a need for us to not just focus on delivering 100 million youth learning experiences per year by 2050, but to do so with measurable economic impact. So we are going to be leaning much more heavily into outcome measurement over the next 3 years. And every region is going to do it at their own pace. So you see impact intelligence is one of the horizontal enablers. It's the first horizontal enabler. Well, we've rolled out JA Institute, which is our arm, our research arm for making sure that we become better and better at not just impact measurement, but impact intelligence. We had a session yesterday for the whole network on what that actually means, moving from just measuring outputs to being really systematic and thoughtful about measuring outcomes in a way that's fixed, flexible, and freestyle. So over the next 3 years, we're going to be on a journey to be more visible with our stakeholders and our boards and our network about what those outcomes really are. The second big new thing is resilience is an enabler, resilience capabilities. I'll be turning to Camille in a second to talk about what that means in practice from a J Africa standpoint. And the third big enabler is stakeholder engagement. That means we're going to be engaging alumni, teachers, particularly in Europe, teachers, board members, parents, volunteers with customized communication modules for each stakeholder, because particularly at this moment in geopolitical history, we really have to focus on stakeholder engagement so we can continue to be one JA. The three big strategic priorities really haven't changed that much. I can answer any questions if you have, but those are the big areas of new focus, those three big enablers. We've also taken one JA, strengthened one JA, and brought it to the foundation level of our strategy. So every single staff member should be able to see themselves in the one JA foundation, whether they work in programs, or whether they work in fundraising, whether they work in culture, technology, or risk and compliance and audit. They should see themselves in the one JA foundation. Okay, I've been speaking a lot. I'm going to stop now. This is my 10th slide. Before I turn to Camille, I'll maybe take some questions in the chat. Are there any questions in the chat? I haven't been able to see the chat.
I haven't seen any,
Okay.
Ashish. So maybe we'll do one question and then do questions again later.
Okay. Yeah, let's keep on time.
I know asking for one question usually is no questions come through, but and it's just one.
Well, what we can do is people can add questions into the chat. I will look at those questions while Camille presents and then answer them in the chat or afterwards. Okay? Thank you.
Well, hello, everyone. It's such a joy to be with you today. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. Perfect. For those that I haven't had the chance to connect with, I am Camille Blair. Thank you so much, Ashish. I am a board member and chair of the Governance and People Development Committee for JA Africa. I see several of my colleagues on the call from representing the Africa region. So shout out to Nii, who serves with me on GovCo, on the Africa board, and also Zadwa, who's board chair for JA South Africa, and Madame Titi from JA Nigeria board, and everyone that's present for the JA Africa region, as well as all my friends from the JA Global Council and for the broader network. Just good morning, good evening, good night. Lovely to see all of you for virtual GLC. I want to also pause and give honor and recognition to our global board members that are on this call. Like, they have done such a tremendous work. I've seen them up front, close and personal, as I've been able to and had the privilege of being at the board meetings and just watching them in action as they help us to transform systems here at JA. I just want to salute each of you and just tell you thank you. And our Madam Chair, Karen, just thank you for all the tremendous work that you're doing. Now, being a part of the JA family has been an amazing journey for me, particularly. And so, as everyone before me has shared their story and their why, it would be remiss if I don't do the same, right? And so, my journey has been filled with inspiration. It's been filled with purpose. So, I'll just do the same and talk about how my life personally and professionally has been transformed. From Dubai to Jamaica, London to the Americas, I have volunteered in every region of JA: MENA, Europe, Asia Pacific, the Americas, Africa, and US, connecting with brilliant leaders and our young leaders across the network, whether it's in the Company of the Year program, JA BizTown, JA Finance Park, our 3DE program, alumni events, or our global forums. I've had the honor of watching leadership sparks in the hearts of our young people all over the world, and now for the past 17 plus years. I'm also the proud mom of 3 incredible Gen Zs, Amelia, Maurice, and Naomi, and they have too also had the opportunity of experiencing the JA program through our JA Finance Park in our local county, Prince George's County, that has also shaped them and shaped their young minds. And again, listening to me all the time talking about JA, that helps too in shaping them as well. As we kind of dig in and kind of transition now to the work that we're doing in Africa, it's just important to mention that when we talk about risk, risk is not something that we run from. It's something that we embrace and prepare for. And understanding that true resilience isn't about avoiding that storm, right? It's about building the systems and putting those systems in place enough to withstand it and enough to execute leadership wise enough to learn from it. And it's the learning from it that is critical about what I'm going to share as it relates to the work that we're doing in Africa. And shout out to our leadership in CEO of Africa is Simin Ngugu. Governance gives us the blueprint, but it's truly resilience that gives us the courage to act. And it is a privilege to share an update on the governance work that we've been doing across the Africa region, particularly around risk assessment, board engagement, and strengthening leadership structures. Ashish mentioned it a moment ago, Africa is the youngest continent in the world, with over 60% of Africa's population under the age of 25. What does that mean? That means that by 2050, 1 in 3 young people in the world will be African. And think about that a moment. 1 in 3. So this isn't just about Africa. Strong governance anywhere strengthens JA all over the world. And so it's because of this global movement, our credibility as a part of the JA network, our sustainability and collective impact are only as strong as our governance practices, not only regionally, but also locally. So we can change the slide. So as we go into the work, and next slide, please. As we go into the work in building resilience in Africa, we've seen a wide range of governance maturity across our members. Some are leading with excellence, and while others are facing challenges that could jeopardize long-term sustainability. So we launched a governance audit with 3 core goals. First, to improve operational efficiency. Second, to strengthen our transparency. And third, to standardize best practices. The audit wasn't about fault finding, right? It wasn't a witch hunt. It wasn't about a witch hunt. It was about fact finding and building strong foundations for our future, because we know we want our youth to benefit from this. A case study I wanted to kind of highlight of how, if not strong governance are in place, what could go wrong is a member not being in good standing. And we never want our members to get to a place where they're not in good standing. And so mitigating that risk early and putting processes in place to support that is critical. I want to give a case example for JA Kenya, which you all are aware of. And the people that suffer in this case the most are our youth. They miss out on our entrepreneurship, amazing JA company program. They miss out on all the education and the opportunities as we provide to them as leaders, but also the funding that kind of goes into all these programs. In the case of JA Kenya, the member was dismissed, and now we're in the process of rebuilding Kenya. So we're trying to get to a place where we're building processes in place to support our members through really good partnership to avoid a member getting to the place where they're dismissed from the JA network. One of the things that we're doing uniquely in the Africa region is through the member nation chair council. And I mentioned the earlier and some of the other chairs that are on the member nation chair council for Africa. It's a wonderful partnership. It's pretty unique. What happens is the members are partnering with the region, and together that partnership gives transparency to all our processes and ultimately build trust. And when we have established that trust and pretty much opening up the books and talking about ideas and collaborating, we're able to truly build resilience, and that's what it's all about. Next slide, please. Here are some of the things that we learned. Most members were disclosing governance information, but there were stakeholder reporting that was inconsistent. And that created challenges of building trust. As we were uncovering and peeling back the onion to see what are some of the issues that we were having, that's what we were able to uncover. There were challenges where board engagement levels were varying, even though we saw very strong diversity and inclusion as it relates to age and gender, and saw some really young board members a part of some of the boards, which was amazing. The challenges still existed where board engagement levels varied, and there were chairs that were clearly inactive or they were unclear about their responsibilities. And then the third was around financial oversight. There were some members that still had gaps as it relates to financial reporting, and more concerning, there was currently no standard risk reporting process, and we're trying to build that. And so these are the gaps that matter, not just for the local impact, but also for collective credibility. I'm going to pause here to see, Ashish, is there anything you wanted to add on any of these slides before I go to the next one?
No, great, keep going.
I appreciate it. Awesome. And so we're not just diagnosing the problem in Africa, we're taking deliberate steps to deliver solutions. And I've been working very closely, and I want to give a shout out to our VP of Operations, Sibiniso, and our General Counsel, Madame Adiola, for turning insights into action. And so our approach is really grounded on practical, people-centered solution, because one of the things I want to call out as we do our governance, we have to couple that with people. Our people have to be the center of what we do because they're the one executing the work. And so when having this people-centered mindset and approach, it helps us and to transform the way that we do things through our clearly defining board roles, clearly defining what the KPIs are, but also renewing efforts to ensure that our chairs are supported in the best way possible. And if they are disengaged or no longer want to be a part, then we help them to transition in the most respectful way. So this governance is a growth strategy, not just a compliance checkbox. Let's go to the next slide, please. So we've broken up the work ahead into 3 clear phases: short, medium, and long term. And as we look at the 3 phases, and next slide, please. Thank you. The short term is what we're working on right now, just finalizing our due diligence and ensuring that our members are getting to the place where they're implementing our regional risk reporting and navigating that space. And medium is in the next 6 to 12 months, is standardizing our government documents and making sure that, again, we're aligning on checklists and ensuring that we have a one team approach with those structured board engagement processes. Longer term, so 12 plus months, establishing continuous improvement and making sure that the systems that we have built are now sustainable. And then every 2 to 3 years, making sure we have that financial checkup. Ashish, is there anything you'll add to that slide?
No, I guess I just wanted to highlight that I wish that all boards could have someone whose job it is to be either treasurer or an audit committee chair or a finance committee chair. In fact, one of the goals we're in the process of, I guess we're debating whether we set this as a goal or not for the next 3 years, because it's a big goal to accomplish. We have a lot of boards that are very small. And as you pointed out here, Camille, like what happened in Kenya was there just wasn't enough oversight in the board, which led to things going wrong. And I think it's very easy for board members to join because they're excited about the mission, but they sometimes forget that the oversight is a really important part of their job. So I think I'm so happy you're sharing this, because I think what you've done in Africa, in places where it's actually very hard to recruit board members to devote the time to spend on this. You personally, Camille, have leaned into doing this for the Africa board and taking this on. So I really wanted this group to see that. So thank you for sharing that. You can keep going.
You're welcome. Thank you, Ashish. And I can't take credit. Like, the credit goes to everyone that's on the ground supporting this work, because we're very passionate about just delivering for our young people, who's at the heart of what we do. So thank you so much for the recognition. But I also want to just share it across everyone that's had their hands in supporting the work. So while our focus,
I think because of the time, we only have 5 minutes left. Let's just maybe pause here. This is a great sort of next step slide to pause at, and see if there's anyone who wants to jump in with a question, either in the chat so we can answer it, or if somebody needs to come off mute and wants to share it because it's not a question that's nuanced enough for the chat. And the questions can be for Camille or for me. And I think I love pausing on the slide, Camille, because it really shows that we're all on a journey together, frankly. So any questions on anything Camille said, or anything I've said, or any reflections for anyone who wants to jump in on the chat before we run out of time? Zabine, are there any I've missed in the chat, or anything that you want to jump in on too?
Thank you. No, we had a great question from Victor, which you responded to. Really critical to on the best practices sharing. I loved Camille's point. I just wanted to underscore. I wrote it down. Governance gives us the blueprint. Resilience gives us the courage. And for me, the resilience gives us the courage is so important, particularly in our environment today, as we remain committed to serving youth. And just in reading and sort of the summary of what people said, what they like and why they are part of JA: impact youth success, empower underserved, unlock economic mobility, big ambition, entrepreneurial, stewardship. And Salvatore, I loved your message to Oxe as well at Moody. They've already responded to your request. Rate partnership with JA AAA. I love that. So those are some of the things that I picked up from there.
Thank you. And Salvatore is absolutely right. What's happening in Africa is also happening in Europe, with some great board members who've got a governance and compliance mindset. I think if there's one headline I want to leave you with, and this is, I'm going to quote Karen Reddington, our board chair: the next strategy is moving from growth to managing growth. And managing growth includes resilience, includes improving the way we think about impact. So we move from impact measurement to impact intelligence. And it means managing our stakeholders at a time of geopolitical change that's going to be more important than ever before. So that's the headline.
perfect. Thank you so much, Ashish. And then just in closing, I just want to thank everyone and thank for the opportunity, but also just a final note to say, to future foolproof JA, we need more than just programs. We need strong systems, right? And that means resiliency in leadership. So everyone having skin in the game and understanding that, the youth are at the heart to what we do, diversity of the funding, and an agile in governance. And it's not about predicting the future. It's really about preparing to be being prepared to strive in it. And so thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to share this update. Zabine, I'll turn it back over to you. And Ashish, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Camille, for that. While we're waiting for more questions, oh, I see a hand. Oh, no, clapping. Karen's clapping. Thank you. One of the discussions we've had at the global board that may be of interest is in this with our super growth ambition. How do we balance so that we are getting quality growth And I think it would be of interest to people to hear some of those conversations that we've been having.
Absolutely. I would say that is the number one topic. So ever since I joined JA, there's been this continued conversation of growth versus depth, reach versus quality, and how we balance those two. And I think the headline conclusion is it's a both and, not an either or. And I think that's in many ways under Karen's leadership, our board is very much now about managing the growth, which has to do with, as I said, the measurement of impact, to be much more thoughtful about outcomes and quality, and making sure that as we expand our reach, we do it in a resilient way so we have sustainable growth. So when something goes wrong, whether it's because of geopolitical reasons or economic reasons, we can bounce back. I mean, resilience is just being able to bounce back. And we've seen in this organization that's lasted over 100 years that we've been able to do this. So I think that's why this phase of strategy is actually leaning into that, Sabine.
Super. There's another question here from Mitch Coy. What is your vision for younger new board members, given the themes of the youth and additional governance? I think this may have been directed in the thread that was specifically kind of started with the Africa story, but even more broadly, I think that's a good question. One of the things we say, in Canada is not with our Indigenous communities, nothing about us without us. And I wonder how that plays out with the boards, with the youth community.
Sure. I think we're almost at time because it's a 50-minute call. So I'll answer this as a last one. I see Aaron saying we're okay. Fantastic. So I'm so happy that we now have alumni representatives formally on the global board. And many regional boards have historically liked to bring younger alumni and younger alumni voices onto the board. I think we're going to see more of that. I also think there's young professionals boards which are being set up all over the network, and alumni associations which now are very active thanks to Aaron's great leadership and Sarah Rapp, who may not be on this call. We just had an alumni conference for GLC, so we're going to see much more connectivity between young alumni, say 20-somethings, and all the different governance opportunities, both for their personal and professional development, but also to make sure that young voices are heard in the way we make our choices. For those of you who haven't yet been to our website, youthvoices.org, this is at scale a way for us to collect young voices, use AI to make sense of them so it informs not just our strategy, but even the way we think about doing events and different types of gatherings.
Super. And I would add one point to professional development. It works both ways. This is very reciprocal. They learn from us, we learn from them. Great question here from Tomas. All AI, I don't know if you can see it, all businesses, organizations are being disrupted right now by AI, as we know. Curious if you know of any JA local organizations and how they're using AI already. And how that might scale.
Well, we just had a GLC session before this one, so it's very top of mind for me. I just had an hour of all the amazing innovation that's happening, of ways to use AI, both for automation and for augmentation of the human experience across the network. And there's so much innovation happening, Sabine, on this. It's impossible for me to summarize it in a short answer. What I'd encourage you to do is we have an AI Center for Excellence at JA Worldwide that's collecting all the best practices and sharing them through communities of practice. We have an LX Tech working group that does it as well. So whoever asked that question, Tomas, if you're really interested in that, please either contact me, I'll put you in touch with our AI Center of Excellence, and we'll be systematic in answering it. What I can also do is I can promise for all of you, in an upcoming CEO letter, I can summarize some of the innovations that are happening so you kind of see it all in one place to make it easy for all of you. Super.
Thank you. Okay, we will start to wrap up now. I can see Aaron also giving me the heads up there. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Ashish, to make closing comments. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this and moderate the session. So many takeaways and even more energized to be. This is my favorite NGO that I work with, and I pinch myself sometimes for this opportunity that I have. So back to you to wrap us up, Ashish.
Thank you, Sabine. Oh, go ahead, Aaron.
Ashish, could I just pop in here? Because this is a historic moment, and I think you said it appropriately, Sabine. So I'm going to unspotlight everyone. And if you guys don't mind turning on your cameras, we're going to get a picture because we have never had this many folks, board members gathered together. So if you don't mind, this is going down for the record books, my fellow board members. We are building community across the globe, board members, staff. So proud to be with all of you. And if you don't have the large gallery setting on your Zoom, I would highly encourage you to do so. It is a fantastic reminder of the community that you are in, board members, and the community that we continue to build. So thank you so much. Back to you, Ashish.
So Aaron, that's a better ending than anything I could ever come up with. I will say I'm just so grateful. Christoph, I see you smiling. It's nice to see you smiling all the way in Europe. Vivian, I see you as well. To Arnold, thank you so much for joining and how busy you are. Of course, Fod, Karen, Peter, Patrick, welcome to the board. I'll try to get as many names. Jay, good to see you. To Andrew, good to see you. Sal, Jack, Noel, I see. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming off camera and actually being part of this great community. We're just so grateful that you are helping us build a better and more peaceful world at this time. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.